Today we're going to look how FDR's New Deal affected many different groups of people within society. Franklin Roosevelt at that time probably did the most than any other president prior to him for civil rights to a certain extent. Frances Perkins, the Secretary of Labor, was the first female cabinet member. So as far as um, women go, FDR he appointed two women as diplomats, one as a federal judge. These were significant steps towards equality for women. Women still face discrimination in the workplace, and the NRA had set some lower minimum wages for women, so there's not equality by any means, but yet FDR does help to create some forms of equality. As far as African Americans and the African American community, FDR appointed more than 100 African Americans to government positions. Educator Mary McLeod Bethune headed the Division of Negro Affairs of NYA. FDR helped to organize what was referred to as the Black Cabinet of African American advisors for certain issues. So, uh, African Americans are going to play a little bit more of a role in the government, and it's largely because of Franklin Roosevelt's efforts. However, Franklin Roosevelt does fail to support some significant civil rights issues. For example, he doesn't want to upset white Southern Democrats, and so he refuses to approve the anti lynching law and to end the poll tax. From a political move, he saw that he had already gained the support of African Americans, many African Americans, and by supporting these pieces of legislation, he was going to get some of the Southern Democrats against him. So he was going to try to play more of a middle of the road approach, and not be too active on the civil rights legislation. Whether or not he believed it was the right thing to do or not was irrelevant. But he believed it was a better political move than anything. New Deal agencies, they discriminate against African Americans. African Americans continue to be paid lower wages in favor of whites. African Americans helped to organize the Southern Tenant Farmers Union, which African Americans did overall generally support Roosevelt and his New Deal. As far as Mexican Americans under Franklin Roosevelt, they too supported the New Deal. Many came to the United States in the 1920s and settled mainly in the Southwest, working on farms and various agricultural jobs. Um, as far as the Civilian Conservation Corps or the Works Progress Administration, uh, these programs did help Mexican Americans a little bit, but um, it also disqualified many migrants from working if they did not have a permanent address. So it did help Mexican Americans a little bit, but yet Mexican Americans were still discriminated against. As far as Native Americans, America has a long history of um, not doing a whole lot or pushing away or treating Native Americans unfairly. And John Collier, at the time, Commissioner of Indian Affairs, changes many policies. The Indian Reorganization Act favored Native autonomy, and they mandated that lands belonged to the entire tribe, where before it was broken up individually. The government tried to, for a little bit of a time, break it up individually. Children can attend schools on reservations, and tribes could elect tribal councils to govern reservations. So the American way, or the American Indians' way of life, was a little bit different as far as governing goes. They'd still be protected under the Constitution, but yet still be allowed to have certain rights that weren't necessarily afforded to other Americans. The New Deal coalition, different groups that supported the Democratic Party. Um, as far as labor goes, the pro-labor legislation, many people led many of this pro-labor legislation led unions to donate money to Franklin Roosevelt. Union membership grew continuously throughout the 1930s from 3 million to over 10 million. The AFL, traditionally craft unions, um, The Committee for Industrial Organization organizes industrial unions, and as we can see, the union growth as a result, the AFL-CIO, these different unions started to grow tremendously. There were labor disputes. Sit-down strikes became an important bargaining tactic. By sitting down and refusing to leave your job, it made it difficult for businesses to get work done. So this became a labor tactic. The NLRB forces Republic Steel to negotiation after clashes with workers. FDR, he would still win the 1936 election pretty significantly in a landslide. Next week, we'll focus on the culture of the 1930s, but until next time, thank you very much.